All right, Season of Souls. For those that want the TLDR, since we just watched the patch note show, kind of spooky. Seems to be some major balancing oversights just on paper. We'll have to see actually on PTS once we get into the game. But very spooky that it seems that a lot of specific concerns that seemed very apparent were just glossed over. So we'll get into that as we get to them. Bunch of skins. Wow. Really? Really, high res? You're gonna use my exact image for your Uller skin? Bro. Come on, man. You can't just... Getting so tired of them having me pose nude and then putting clothes over them, too. It's getting ridiculous. Alright, skins. Cool. Yeah, Color Forge event. You can change the colors of these specific skins. You can be like, wow, it's pink now, or it's purple, and you only have to play Smite for 11 weeks in order to unlock those. I don't know why, but that is how it's gonna work. 11 weeks of playing Smite, and you get to make Cthulhu purple. So, cool beans. Quality of life. The capes and dice can be browsed. Cool. Smite now runs on Linux. So for all 12 people that wanted Smite on Linux, congrats, you nerd. Moving through. Yeah. Bug fixes. They're fixing Pooch, so he actually stunned. That's nice. Hey! Fixed an issue where his abilities were reducing FPS significantly. Nice. They did the thing that we told him about. Baba Beans. They fixed the other characters too. Hey, Bologna. Athena. Hey, look at it. It's all the characters I told him about. Nice. Yeah. Maybe we can switch back over and actually use the new HUD. Woo. Yeah, let's go. Okay. FPS bugs. You love to see it. Cool. Yeah. They fixed the bug where the items, you couldn't buy the straight tier 3. You had to buy the tier 2 before you could buy the tier 3. Holy crap. Look how long this is. Just, what's that? Oh my goodness. All right. Luckily, we'll be able to skip over most of the item stuff because it's mostly... the same thing. It's mostly the same thing. All right. Back to the top. Okay, this is like the important stuff right here. So we got new mechanics. You got a soul surge. So when a god dies, it goes, ooh, spooky circle. And then inside that spooky circle, everybody's like, neom, I'm going really fast. And you also do extra damage to people with low HP. Could be used as a pro snowballing effect, but also could be anti-snowball, you know, for a little comeback action. I'm indifferent on this until I get to play on it. It's one of those things where it's kind of hard to judge how it's going to be until you get on it. But that'll be interesting. It also spawns minions, which is weird. I don't like this part. It spawns minions which are attacking gods and also provide XP and gold. That seems weird. Like, I guess it's like an RP thing where they wanted like souls to come out, but it just seems like a random minion is gonna spawn and body block your like ability, and it's just gonna be frustrating is what I feel like. They've got the rules for it. It lasts for 30 seconds. Additional deaths increase the size and the radius and the length. Caps at 4 deaths. It's got a 2-minute respawn timer. All players, you get 15% increase. That's a way too much increased movement speed. I hate that. 15% increased movement speed. I don't like more movement being in the game. While below 50% HP, you do bonus damage. Not bonus damage to low HP targets. When you are low HP, you do bonus damage. Okay. Dying inside of a soul surge. Okay, this is not for Conquest. Reduces your respawn timer by 50%, but not in Conquest. Okay. The Soul Surge Spirit, 15 seconds, incapacity players and objects, spawns every 10 seconds. 30 XP and 12 gold. 1.45 gold, 9 XP per level. Also provides HP magical power. You get a buff when you kill it? Is that what it's trying to say? Also provides HP and magical power. No, that has to be its... Is that its stats? Why would it give you just magical power? That has to be like the spirit stats. That doesn't make any sense. There's no way it's a buff that gives you HP and magical power. That doesn't make any sense. That must just be like, it spawns with this much HP and it has this much magical power, and then that's just scaling. That's the only way that makes sense. It doesn't make sense any other way. Shutdown nerfs decrease the shutdown reward. That's good. The shutdown stuff was too high, for sure. Ranked reset. MMR is going to reset. Cap players get reset to 3,000. This effect gets proportionally weaker. Down the MMR scale, players close to 1,500 will notice only a slight reset. Masters and GM get reset to Diamond 1. All other ranks retained. So just a standard soft reset. They did some rework on what healers are classified as in Assault. Okay. Cool. Art update. Everything is super scary now. You're in the underworld. It's spooky, scary skeletons in June. Nailed the timing on Halloween, by the way. Literally nailed it. You got to get ahead of the Halloween stores. Okay, once the Halloween stores are running, it's too late. Gotta jump on it early. That way we can jump on Christmas in September. All right, maybe earlier if we're lucky. In fact, maybe we can hit up Christmas before Halloween. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. The Stygian Beacon. Okay, this is the big one. So this is a massive new objective. And it's capture the flag. So big tower in mid lane. You stand in the circle, you capture it. If you're standing in the circle and they're standing in the circle, nobody's capturing anything. Every time you capture it, your whole team gets a buff. And you do additional damage to structures and the Titans, and you... What? Permanent buff grants 5% additional damage to structures and Titans and a 1% movement speed buff per stack. Oh, it's so stupid. That's so stupid. That means, theoretically, one team could just move 3% faster than the other team. That's such a terrible design decision. It is unfathomable how dumb of a decision that is. Like, the amount of stupid, like the person who thought that, take them off. Whatever their job was, give them a different job. They're not good at this. This is not their calling. They have a different calling. That's a terrible decision. I hope that gets removed before it gets to the live client. You just don't want a team just being able to move faster than another team. It means that you can't catch up to them. You can't. It's just bad from the gameplay. It's going to feel really bad. Anyway, this is fine. Bonus damage to structures and Titans. That might be needed because they're reducing the power so much. They're reducing the power so much in the game, so maybe that damage kind of helps balance out, for like the late game pushing and stuff. 4 gold per minute of match time, 5 XP per minute of match time. Gold and XP awarded to all 5 players equally. Roughly 48 gold and 60 XP to 5 players on capturing the first team beacon. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. You get bonus damage, you get movement speed, you get gold, you get XP. This thing spawns 3 times. It's going to spawn at the 12-minute marker. Then every 6 minutes after that, you can capture it up to 3 times. Each additional player contributes 1/5 of the original capture speed, so more people, you capture it faster. Once it's captured for the third time, that is when the Titans spawn. The Titans will YOLO down the lane. This only happens one time per game. Titans are pretty thick, and they do a good amount of damage, and it looks like they are going to bop the towers, and you're pretty much going to be forced to team fight around them. That is fine. More team fights is good, but it does look like you pretty much got to fight them good. No, if the Titan dies, you do not immediately lose the game after this. It is like a fake Titan. It's like a fake Shadow Titan. It's got the aesthetic of a Titan, but it doesn't have anything to do with the end of the game. Unless, theoretically, one of them got all the way down and killed the other Titan. In which case, then it was real. So there's that. Big change to the Fire Giant. Fire Giant buff lasts an extra minute until the respawn time has been delayed another minute, which is good. They're decreasing the buff that you get from the Fire Giant, which makes sense because they're decreasing all of the power in the game. So if you decrease all the power in the game and then Fire Giant gives you just as much power, then all of a sudden you're buffing the Fire Giant. So mostly keeping that in line. Some decreases here on the health of stuff. All of these numbers basically don't mean anything until you play the game. Like, Titan's got like 750 less HP, but you've got 30% less power. Probably means the Titan's actually tankier. Probably, but you know, you gotta try. All of these numbers are like stuff you gotta play the game. Pyromancer is gonna give you more gold. Oracle's giving more buffs, more golden XP. So are all the little side camps. So the cooldown buff, the shield buff, all that stuff. Mid Harpy spawn is going to be at 1 minute now. And you're going to get increased golden XP. Okay, so increasing the golden XP on all this stuff is spooky, because if you get control of all these, usually you maintain control of them. It's just how Smite goes. If you get the first one, unless you're getting a rotation from your jungler, you're usually getting the second one and the third one and the fourth one. And the more these become important, the more you're snowballing in your lane. So those are very concerning. Same thing here in mid. If they're spawning 30 seconds earlier, that means the team that gets the first one is probably getting the second one. Now they're getting a whole extra camp, whole extra 30 seconds faster. Things start going quicker. Going quicker. So you gotta be careful of that. Looks like red buff got a small decrease on that. So looks like it was general decreases to like the safe buffs, and then a general increase to like the contested buffs to make the contested buffs more important compared to like your safe buffs. All right. Your catch-up chests, I've got a little bit more mustard in them now. All right, Relic Daggers got the 2 glyphs. Witchblade is back in the game, reduces attack speed. That is good. This item has to exist in Smite. In my opinion, I think removing it was a super dumb decision, because it's like the only real counter to attack speed in Smite, because for the most part, Midgardian sucks, you know? Then we've got Eldritch Dagger, which increases protections by 15%, and you can see wards. Historically in Smite, percent increases does overcap stat caps, which means theoretically, assuming that there's still enough items and stats in the game after all the nerfs in order to reach stat caps, this would be an extra 15% on stat cap. So if you had like 350 of each, then you'd be getting another, give or take, 50 protection. So you'd have like 400 of each. And if you were at Achilles and you popped your 2, you'd have like 450 of each protections. Theoretically, that'd be a lot of protections. Then you pop a Pridvin off of that. Who knows? Rune Forge is getting 2 upgrades. One glyph is, hey, do more damage because you're tanky. That's going to be a theme. The other one is, hey, do more damage because You take less damage, you're already tanky. They take more damage. It's basically if Sunder was a hammer. Pridvin. Glorious Pridvin. So if you like Pridvin exploding once, you're going to love Pridvin exploding twice. That's that. If you like Pridvin shielding once, you're going to love Pridvin shielding for twice as much. This one basically means that Pridvin can be like a 1200 hit point shield. This one basically means that Pridvin is going to be a nuke. You see the theme here? Very tanky, very damage off of defense abilities. Remember that time when they removed all of the power off of hybrid items because giving damage onto defense items is really stupid? Well, we're giving a lot of damage onto defense items. Like a lot. Big change with all the items. So long story short on all of this. In general, magic power, physical power in the game reduced by 30%. In general, health, physical power, and magical protections reduced by 15%. And they're all rounded to increments of 5. That rounding means that some things only got nerfed like 10% and some things got nerfed like 35%. So this is basically to fight back against the power creep and smite. And so we will see how that goes. The big problem, okay. Step 1, is this a good idea and does Smite need it? Yes. Smite has had a power creep for a long time. It needs to, hone it back in because, you keep adding the next new item and the next new god and everything has to be better and better and better to keep people playing and blah, 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 blah. But eventually you just got to do a little squish right back down, okay? But here's the deal. Inherently, if you're decreasing the amount of damage in the game and not decreasing the protections by as much, you're buffing tanks. That was intended. That is fine. I don't know how many times I've gotten Shibalanke solos in my rank games because they didn't want to play a tank because they're not any fun, but sweet baby Jesus, it was way too many times. So I get it. Make tanks a little bit better, cool beans. Here's the problem. What are the 2 largest repercussions of doing this? Well, 1, if you're reducing the amount of power in the game, then base damage becomes way more important. And as far as I'm aware, there was no base damage nerfs, which means that any god that has 4 damaging abilities is going to get buffed out the wazoo because of this, because base damage is going to be way more important. 2, if there's less damage in the game and people are tankier, that means that healing also gets a massive buff because healing no longer scales off of magical power. It is in hand, it is base scaling. And as far as I'm aware, healing was not nerfed at all, which means that this patch is going to end up being a massive healing buff in a meta where all the healers are basically permabanned or the top winning characters in the game. So that is very concerning. Very concerning. Okay. So you see all this? Power, 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 power. Protections, health, power, 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 blah, 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 blah. You see this? Give or take 30% and 15%. You see this? Also, movement speed on items got generically reduced. Okay? Because for some reason, we're putting it on a totem. Power, 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 power. Couple of other things. A side effects here. Less power in the game means that gods like mages get way more heavily affected than other classes because mages are super reliant on their scaling. Hunters get nerfed a little bit, but not nearly as much as mages because hunters are a lot more reliant on building up other stats as well, except for crit. nerfing the power on items is a massive nerf to crit, because crit is reliant on the more power you can get, the thicker your giant crit number is. And if you have lower power, you're getting less scaling, so you're getting a less big on that crit number. So it's actually another nerf to crit in terms of hunters. Okay. You see all this? Look at this. Power and health and healths and powers and powers and healths and healths and powers and powers and healths and healths and powers. How much? I don't know. Give or take 30 or 15%. I'm not going to go all over this because you know why? It's give or take 30% for power and 15% for health, with about a 5% scaling diff on either side. Auras are seeing a small change as well. So if we go look at down here on like prophetic, some of the auras got a little bit bonus nerfed because they wanted supports to be a little bit less aura dependent. Also, Pridvin got a massive buff. The explosion is based off of your total protections from items and abilities instead of the initial shield health. So late game, Pridvin explosion on a tank is always going to do 600 plus damage. And because it can double explode, that means it is going to be a 1200 plus damage nuke on tanks. Just throwing that out there for the late game, just so everybody knows we're all on the same page. That is a 1200 damage nuke item or a 1200 HP shield. Just so we're all on the same page. All right. Kins, this one will be interesting. Decrease the scaling floor from 3% at 2,000 health to 1.5% at 2,250 health. Wow. Okay. So, massive Kins nerf. My initial thought was, well, Kins is just going to be the only item the hunters buy now, but like, I mean, you might still have to buy that as a hunter, because I don't see a world where crit is viable for hunters in this patch because of the aforementioned, changes to power, and also spectral armor exists. PTS is live. Okay, I still want to finish this up. But that's tough. That's tough for hunters. You're probably gonna have to buy it anyway. And 30% and 30% and 15% and 30% and 15%. No decreased movement speed on serrated edge, and 30% and 15%. Silver branch. What? 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 Why would... Did somebody just... Did somebody just say, oh yeah, by the way, and also screw Silver Branch? Like, well, how did that slip in there? How did we... Why just, what the... Huh. That has to be a typo? It has to be something. It's literally, I don't even know what that means. What's even the point of the item? Maybe it was supposed to be reduced to 80? Maybe. Maybe it was supposed to be reduced to 80. Maybe it was reduced by 20 and they said 220. That could make sense. Reduced by 20, not 220 would make more sense. Nobody hit 80 stacks anyway. That would make a lot more sense. That has to be it. That can't possibly be right. 30% to 15% to 30%. Decrease passive scaling from 2% at 2,000 health to 1% at 22. Okay. Why are we nerfing Kins and Soul Reaver in a meta that we have outright stated is meant to buff tanks? If the meta is outright meant to buff tanks, why would you also hit the standard counter items? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, 30% and 15%, or 30% and 15%. 30, 15, 30, 15, 30, 15, blah, 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 blah. So on a binding, decrease the passive protection reduction to 1 and then 0.8. So now it gives 17? It's 17 pen at level 20 instead of 20? Is that the quick math? Oh no. It's not 1 plus 0.8. It's just 1 2.8. 1 2.8. I read that wrong. I was like, that's a weird number. And 30% and 15% and 30% and 15% and 30% and 15% and 30% and 15%. Decreased the power conversion on Transcendence from 3% to 2%. Percentage nerf on the power conversion on top of the power reductions and stuff. That hurts. That hurts Transcendence a lot. That's a massive power nerf. Okay. 30%, 15%, 30%, 15%. War banner. Decrease percent protection buff on the passive from 12% to 7%, but they didn't decrease the percent physical power buff. Okay. Interesting. Anything else that's not just a straight number? Straight numbers. Decrease magical power scaling from 10 per 10% mana to 7 power per 10% mana. More scaling diff. Okay, and that's that. These items aren't performing as well right now and will get buffs along with their reduction. So they're getting a buff nerf. What's up, ESPN? Buff nerfs coming your way. Decrease protection from 70 to 60 in the health, but increase the passive CC immunity from 0.6 seconds to 1 second, and added a 10% mana heal on hit of the passive. Okay. Interesting. Abyssal Stone. Internal cooldown 6 to 5 seconds. Increase the debuff duration from 4 to 5. Amulet of Silence. Decrease the number of stacks required to trigger it from 5 to 4. Decrease the internal cooldown from 30 to 15. That's a lot more silences. Everybody wants more CC and Smite. Archdruid's Fury. Just got the decrease, but then he's got a less internal cooldown. Cyclopean Ring. Increased the percent max health from 7 to 8%. I don't know if magical ADCs are gonna love having less power. I don't know if that's gonna be their meta. I don't know if that's gonna save them. Dawnbringer increased the passive protections and movement speed from 5 to 10%. And now caps at 3 enemy gods in the area. Huh. That could be a very good item. Stacking percent protections in this meta could get very strong very fast. Okay. Increase the HP 5, decrease the internal cooldown. Sure, Gem of Isolation, same thing. Internal cooldown, Hasten Ring. 100 gold cheaper. I don't think that's going to save the magical ADCs. Decrease stacks required to get the CDR. Okay, that's fine. Increase the duration by 3 seconds on the Vigor. Increase HP threshold to trigger, though. Oh, that's actually a good thing, too. Interesting. Surprised Vigor got buffed. Spikes. Increase the passive damage. I love increasing damage on tranquilities. It's such a smart idea, Hardrez. You're so goddamn talented. I love buffing damage on tank abilities. It's such a good idea. Okay. So frustrating. So frustrating. Midgardian Mail, increase the stacks and increase the passive duration. Gaia, increase the heal percent, it's so many tank buffs. It's so many tank buffs all at once. It's so overwhelming. So many. Okay. Talisman of Energy, more movement speed. I'm glad we're adding more. Why are we getting more movement speed? We stated we were going to be, I guess it's 6 to 4 stacks so it's fine. I guess it evens out, but you're getting the stacks of movement speed faster. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Telkine's Ring. Basic attack bonus, 10 to 2. This is not going to save magical ADCs. This little, like, I'll throw you a bone with, like, the last bite of meat on it is just not going to save the magical ADCs. Increase power health steal from 6% to 8%. That is a wild Guardian solo buff. So that's another one for the tanks. That's for the boys. Okay. Yeah, okay, little nimble. Sure. Heart Seeker, still gonna have the percent on it. Low nose. Yeah, protections and auras. Okay, this one really jerks my gherkin. They reduced the power by 10 on the power rat acorns, which is fine, but then only reduce them by 5 on the tank acorns. So the tank acorns give basically the exact same power as the power acorns, which from a design perspective doesn't make any sense. The whole patch is a tank buff, and then you're gonna give his power acorn the same power as his tank acorn? I guess it's just rat tank every game. Bluestone is cheaper. Okay. That's not an abused tank item. That's fine. A little bit more power on Boomba's dagger. Interesting. HP, regain per assist, more on Warflag, reduced movement speed on Wing Shard, reduced movement speed on Radiance. Good. Movement speed is getting lowered. Reduced movement speed, reduced movement speed, reduced movement speed, reduced movement speed. Okay. Okay, this giant section is called We Goofed. Remember all of those changes they made to percent penetration? Okay, just wipe that from your memory because it never happened. It was never in the game and you don't have to worry about it. Okay? Remember that like one patch of change pen? Just JK. We're buffing tanks and you're gonna want your pen. All right. Now here's... Okay, this will get my blood flowing a little bit. So we had the heads up perspective to reduce the movement speed on Kiss, but we didn't reduce the healing on Aphrodite. While she is the #1 win rate god in Smite at like all levels. Certainly at Diamond Plus, but at like all levels. Hachiman got a 5% scaling nerf, which is fine, except for the fact that he's still the best hunter in the game. I don't know if hunters are going to be any good anymore, but he's the best hunter in the game still. Hell got a movement speed nerf. We even touched the ability that heals, but we didn't reduce the healing and preemptive readiness. That's fine. Power on tier, it doesn't mean anything. Vamana actually got a nerf that matters. They decreased the duration of his ultimate, which is actually a legit nerf. The rest of these nerfs are like little nothing burgers. But Vamana reduced duration of his ultimate is actually what makes him OP, so that's a huge nerf. Yamoja, movement speed. Increase the execute threshold on Achilles. Okay. Okay. So, what we're doing here is we're going to buff every tank in the game. Okay? We're going to give them 20 different damage items to work with that all scale off of their protections. Then we're going to give the warrior who can most abuse protections because he gets built-in protections, and then he has a percent scaling buff that overcaps the hard cap. And then we're going to let him execute you at a higher threshold. Whose brain is melting at high res? Whose brain is melting? Anyway, and her actually got a buff, which is good because he's one of the worst performing hunters. That's actually a good change. They increased his base attack speed, which for hunters is massive. Because all of your attack speed items that you buy scale off of that base number. So that's a huge buff for Anher, and they gave him a little bit more slow. Mesmerize duration going up on Apollo and increasing the movement. Okay, we're really getting some mixed messages on this movement speed in this patch. Because, like, we're nerfing Aphrodite movement speed, and we're, like, nerfing a movement speed on, like, some items, but not other items. But then we're giving Apollo more movement speed on this. I just don't understand where the movement speed trajectory is going. We're, like, buffing movement, we're also nerfing movement. It's just a weird way to go about it. I don't know if anybody thought to myself, you know what, Apollo would be good if he could just have 5% more movement speed on his 3. I don't know if anybody said that. Anyway, increase power scaling on suppress the insolent and decrease the cooldown to 8 seconds. That's a nice Artemis clear buff. See, this buff makes sense. What does Artemis suck at? Clear. What are they reducing? Power. So give her a little bit more scaling so she can actually try to clear, and give her a little bit less cooldown so she can actually try to clear. That buff makes sense. This buff, no sense. No sense? Perfect sense. Okay. Bacchus, decrease cooldown on burp. Weird buff. He's pretty good right now. Increase cat HP from 2 to 3. Hate that. That's frustrating. Increased duration of CC immunity granted to self and allies to 0.5 seconds. That'll make Chiron a lot easier to use for the average player. That's fine. Cleo, decrease the cooldown at entering a wall from 16 seconds to 13 seconds and decrease the damage she can take in a wall. Hate that. Just increasing all of the things that make Cleo frustrating. She can be in the wall more often and for longer while she's untargetable. It's not a fun mechanic for people. Increase the stun duration on Danza from 1 to 1.4. See, that's interesting. I don't love buffing CC, but that's a good buff for Danza. Strife cooldown down by 2 seconds. Somebody tell Gabe that Discordia got buffed. Guys, Discordia got buffed. They did it. He can finally stop complaining every patch that Discordia didn't get buffed. You got a buff, technically. Erlang got a weird set of buffs. Bonus damage on his percentage on his dog, which is huge if we're moving into a tank meta. Increased CC on his 2, which is huge. And then 10% more damage mitigation. Those are massive buffs for Erlang. I don't know if it's going to be an ability-based solo lane meta, auto attack meta. I don't know if, Berserker Shield is going to end up scaling better than the Glad Shields. My hypothesis is that auto attack solo laners and stuff are not going to be good. My hypothesis is that anybody that can scale up 40% CDR and just abuse Pridvins and Bluestones and stuff are going to be meta, but we'll see. Power scaling per hit on ESET. It's kind of a weird god to buff the power scale. I mean, ESET sucks right now, so I get buffing ESET, but it is weird that ESET is getting a power scaling buff on her 1, considering it is one of the better scaling power abilities already in the game. So that's a little weird. Just from all mages are going to have less clear now, so it's anyway. Duration for Dragons Fafnir, 60 seconds. Dear God, he a dragon. He a dragon for the rest of the game. Okay, that's a long dragon. I kind of hate this change. I mean, Geb has been in a weird spot for a long time now, but I feel like Geb is going to skyrocket in importance in this patch. But shield duration's an extra second longer, and then he's got a little bit more base scaling on his ulti. Base damage increases go up incredibly in value this patch because scaling is going down. Hui Ricochet, base damage increases are big. Also keep in mind that Hui's Ricochet can hit multiple times, so this is up to a triple, increase. Shelly got an increase on damage on her ultimate, particularly at the start of the game. I don't know what the hell they're thinking with this, personally. I don't know if their stats on Shelly so that she, sucks in casuals. That would make sense to me. She doesn't have an escape skill. Gods without escape skills always are underperforming for the general populace, but at a high level gameplay, I feel like Shelly is going to just move over to support because she's got 4 damaging abilities that CC, and also they're just going to abuse base scaling. So I feel like at top end level, she's just going to be a gnarly support. Janice is, for whatever reason, getting a buff. God, my back hurts. We're just going to give him more percent pen because why the hell not, I guess. Decrease the cooldown on Slither. That's good. Gods that only have a movement ability for their getaway need to be able to actually use it to have any shot. So that's nice. Kuzenbo, increased damage reflected. Okay. And increased damage mitigation. Okay. Well, why not give him more reflect damage and more mitigations in a tank buff patch? That just seems like doubling down on your dumb, to be honest. Can't wait to get Kuzenbo ultied and hit by a 600 Pridven proc, and then he comes out of Kuzenbo ulti and hits me with a 600 Pridven proc while I'm reflecting all of my damage onto me. That just seems like poor planning. And then some non-conquest buffs. Lancelot, Loki buff. I hate that. Medusa buff. Mulan buff. Poseidon buff. Ra buff. Raijin buff. Raven buff. Sat buff. Is this is non-conquest, right? I didn't make that up. These are non-conquest buffs. Non-conquest buffs have been removed from this god. Non-conquest buffs have been for... That was just for Kuzenbo? Okay, that is very confusing to label a section like it's gonna go into non-conquest. And then okay, that's some tough formatting right there for sure. For sure that's tough on the formatting. We gotta rework on that one. Anyway, so these are actually buffs, not non-conquest buffs. Increased movement speed. Jesus. All right, can we make up our goddamn mind? Are we increasing movement speed in the game or are we reducing movement speed in the game? Because everywhere I look, we're increasing the movement speed on characters, which is a dumbass decision. It's dumb. Up to 18%. Come on, man. Come on, man. Get it together. Okay. Terrible choice. Increased physical power scaling. From 60 to... What? Increased physical power scaling from 60 to 65. Total scaling decreased from 130 to 120. Okay. One of these is wrong. And that's all I got. One of these is wrong. Agonizing Visions. Okay. Flurry damage. Has more damage. Cool. Base damage. Reminder, base damage increases are big. Big for base damage increase because less power. Attack speed buff 80% on Medusa. Base damage increased. Okay. Huge Medusa 1v1 buff. Cooldown reduction on Mulan. She's got 4 damaging abilities. If she's using her abilities faster, she's doing way more damage. That's basically a base damage buff. Poseidon gives more attack speed. Oh, gives attack speed while the buff is active. That's a take. Ra, increased protections from his... We're buffing a heal. Increased protections on this heal. Increase the power provided. And increase the power provided. Okay, buffing a heal in a tank meta. That's not going to be tragic. Increased damage per tick on target. That was marked. Okay, this is fine. That's a good change for Raijin. Let's give him a little bit more damage, a little bit of love. Raven increased the health shield per stack from 7 to 9%, 21 to 27% total at max stacks, and decreased the cooldown on Shadow Fist. 4 damaging abilities. Buff to percent on being a tank. Tanky Raven jungle could be very viable. Set. buffing this god because he's boring, trying to get somebody to play him. Shiva, increased HP 5 and MP 5, decreased cooldown on his ulti. All right. Scotty, increased power scaling on the initial hit of the snowstorm. That's fine. Sobek, decreased cooldown on Pluck, Tail Whip, and Sickening Strike. It's kind of hilarious because Sobek is like maybe historically one of the most played Guardian solos in a buff meta, in a buff tank meta, and then they're reducing his cooldowns. He very well might end up back in solo lane. Wukong, HP threshold got brought up, increased the slow on Suki. Uller increased attack speed by 5 and lifesteal by a lot. 10% increased physical lifesteal on Axe Dance. Cooldown on the turret. That's annoying, but all right. Increase the duration 2-second root. Oh my god, why are we buffing CC? There's so much CC in Smite. That's a long ass root. Okay. Zhongkui, increase why are we giving him more protections? 60 120. Why are we giving him 120 base protections? What are we doing? My brain hurts. Okay. All right. Okay. Well. Okay. Well, we are going to update our PTS because PTS is apparently up. I almost just opened up something called Team, which is not Steam. Fun fact. All right. So, well, we're in this transition period. So, yesterday we reviewed the pre-patch. In the pre-patch, we thought to ourselves, looks interesting, could be cool to focus more on PvP in team fighting, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be considered in order to make this work. And now that we have read through and seen the actual patch notes, it looks like none of it was considered. So I am extremely skeptical now moving into the gameplay section of this. I will say, I'm going to give myself the out, which is you can't judge a MOBA in the changes on paper. You can't fully judge it on paper because sometimes things are just very different in game than it is on paper. But I will say on paper, I am extremely concerned about the seeming lack of forethought into things like base numbers and gods that have 4 damaging abilities and healing and that kind of stuff. Thank you for supporting the Twitchiest community. If you'd like to see more videos, make sure you subscribe to the channel and always hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Thank you for all your support and have a Twitchin' day, y'all.